Hi everyone, today we're going to be talking about stealing food and what you can do if you have a little bit of a problem with your dog raiding the Christmas tree, raiding your sideboards, stealing food off your plates even. So there's three parts to what we're going to cover. One is management, because issues like stealing respond well to a change in how you're managing your dog. Specific training skills you can work on to help with that. And then what to do if it has all gone wrong and your dog has taken something they really shouldn't have done. So I'm going to grab my coffee and let's kick off. So management to help prevent your dog from developing a bad habit of stealing food. Things that you can do would be just to make sure that you only ever feed your dog either from their bowls or using a place as a cue for feeding. So only ever feed them in their playpen or their crate. If you only ever feed them with a specific set of cues, like they're in their crate, there's a specific activity feeder that you're putting down for them, then they will learn that that is their food and all is well. The problem, well, there's two ways that the problems arise. And one is that your very cute Labrador puppy sits by your knee when you're eating with eyes that look like they're hungry, and you might inadvertently reward them from your plate, or you give them a tidbit because they look hungry. So if you've got an issue with your dog stealing food, you've got to be really, really clear with your dog. Food from a plate is never, ever going to be for them, not ever. So if you've got an issue, I wouldn't let them lick the plates. I wouldn't let them have anything to do with human feeding. The other way that this can manifest as an issue is counter surfing. Counter surfing responds well to both management and training. Once your dog has noticed they can A, reach your sideboard, and B, rob from it, they will have got a massive reward. Quite often, the first time it goes wrong, it's an entire loaf of bread, an entire roast chicken. It is the biggest jackpot reward ever. In order to prevent that happening again, A, you have to have clean work surfaces and try and make sure the dog doesn't have access to your work surfaces. So, you know, keeping them in a playpen if you've still got a puppy. The other thing you can do with counter surfing is do lots with roly Kong toys, food dispensing toys, so that every time they're around the work surfaces, which are clear of food, they are playing with something which is dispensing food on the floor. And then that gives them a nice little place cue. Whenever they're in that room, food appears on the floor, rather than every time they're in that room, they get a chance to rob off the sideboard. But that will only work if you're also keeping sideboards clean of anything they can rob, or playpenning either the sideboards or the dog in that room. So in terms of what is a reasonable temptation, because it's really hard, isn't it, managing your life so that they can't have access, it really depends on the age of your dog and the history of your dog. So love my two Labradors to bits. Would I leave a plate of food on a coffee table low down in a room and then leave that room with both my dogs? I think with my two, it depends on the mood they're in, how quiet they are, whether anything's happened that day. But for the most part, even though they're angels, I wouldn't risk it. I'll pick up the plate of food as I left. So depending on what your dog's history is, and street dogs, dogs who have been stray, may be quite adept at reading signals from you. They do things like they don't move until you've left the room, and then they quickly rob the plate of food and go back and lay down, so it looks like they didn't do it. So the key thing is not putting temptation in their way, even if they're pretty awesome at not robbing food. So they're all little hints and tips on management. In terms of training, there are two things that you can do. One is training a leave it. And with leave it, you have to be very careful. So as humans, we tend to be a bit loose with that command. Leave it just means stop something. And we tend to use it for stop lunging to get your dinner, spit out the tennis ball so I can throw it again. You need to train a leave it to mean whatever you're about to go for, no way, not ever is that going to be for you, but I have something better. So leave it becomes quite a fun command rather than a leave it. It's kind of leave it, look, I've got this. So it's a way of redirecting their attention. But over time, what can happen is they learn that leave it means that's for me, it's not for you. And that can help. So leave it would be one thing worth dusting off if you haven't really got it. And you do have to practice all these things. It's a bit like playing the piano. Do your scales, do your Hanon every day. Otherwise, it's just not going to work when you need it. So leave it is a good training skill for them to have. And another one I quite like is teaching them to sit when they're asking for something or they've found something they want. So you can teach that by doing irretrievable searches, or you can just teach it by sitting in a chair with some of their food in your hand and teaching them to sit, and then you give them a treat. So sitting to ask, teaching them an asking behavior. And then if you catch them sitting looking wistfully at a Christmas tree chocolate, you do then have to say, oh yes, good, come, I've got something for you over here, rather than waiting for them to sit nicely and ask and then just saying, no, you're not allowed that. So your two training skills would be a sit to ask and a leave it to redirect their attention. When it does happen, what should you do? So say they have got an entire roast chicken and enjoyed some of that. So you want to absolutely avoid giving them any attention for it, even negative attention, yelling and shouting, telling them no, all of that. It won't change the fact that that will definitely happen again, should they get the opportunity. So if it happens, if they've got chocolate or raisins or grapes, take them straight to the vet. Do not stop, do not pass go, straight to the vet. If it's something you're not sure about, phone your vet and just check with them whether it's something you should be really concerned about. The main thing to do if it happens is to take a step back and evaluate, how did it happen? What led to us leaving that there and thinking it would be okay? And quite often, we as the humans make those mistakes when we are tired, when we've got visitors around, when we think the dog should have known better. But the fact remains, if they did know better, they wouldn't have done it. So dogs don't have morals in the way that we might like to think. They've done enough tests now on dogs and 2-3-year-old children to show that they don't have morals. If you ask a child not to eat sweet, leave the room for about 2 minutes, most of them will eat the sweet and then pretend they didn't when you come back in. And it's the same with dogs. It's not that they're being naughty, they simply don't know better. So if it happens, there's no point being cross. If they knew better, they wouldn't have done it. And some people will say, my dog does know better because they look really guilty. Most often, what we as humans interpret as guilt for stealing food is not really guilt for stealing food. It's what we call a calming signal, which is the dog going low to the ground, keeping their head down, avoiding eye contact. And it is all behaviours that dogs use to make a more dominant dog, or a dog they perceive as a threat. It's to make them not attack. So if your dog starts giving you all those guilty signs, just think about what you did to prompt that. I've not come across instances where dogs look guilty if there isn't a history of the human seeming threatening around what has happened. So I would suggest it is a calming signal rather than the dog actually knowing better. And even if it is guilt, and in some ways they knew better, in that instant, they did not know better because they did it. And punishing them will absolutely not change the likelihood of it happening again. So the key things, if you've got a stealing problem with food, is your management techniques. So only ever feeding them in a specific place, in a specific way, and never feeding them from human plates at the human dinner table or around human meal times. So keeping the two entirely separate. Not putting temptation in your dog's way, and using barriers to prevent them having access to sideboards. So I just distracted then. I can see my dog Lawrence has caught my eye and reversed and sat on the tortoise's mat trying to get a treat from me. In terms of training, trainer leave it and train them to ask when they want something with a sit or a down. And if you need help with that, ask a trainer. Think irretrievable searches. When you find something you want, you have to sit and then someone gets it for you. And what to do if it happens is don't give it any attention. Make sure your dog is safe, consult a vet if you need to, and then really take a step back completely. Try and be really calm and try and look for what happened for you and for the management in your household that led to that occurring. So hope that was really helpful. If you've got any comments or questions, please pop them in the comment section below. And I wish you all a very happy Christmas. Bye.